Hello again. We're going to do another chapter from Proverbs with the Millers. And I'm going to take me a quick drink because it is nice and warm and toasty out here. Last week we had 2 inches of ice. This is 1 week later and it is in the 70s. My. What kind of interesting weather we have. Oh, that feels so good. Now I'm going to move over just a hair to get that sun out of my eyes while I read. The verse today is from Proverbs 15, verse 16. And the chapter that we're reading is called Treasure and Trouble. There was great excitement in Sharon Miller's upper grade classroom. This was the final week for Brother Ken's health habits chart. And there still remained several children who hadn't missed a square. Sharon was one of them, and she had high hopes of winning a prize. The teacher had shown the prizes to his class. First prize was a paint box, the big kind that cost $4, with 3 brushes and lots of paints. That prize was only for the children who didn't miss one square on their charts. Then there would be brand new toothbrushes in a variety of colors for all those who missed less than 3 squares. The chart listed a lot of different health rules, and after 3 weeks, most of the children had no hopes of winning the paint box. Sharon had been very careful, though, and so had her best friend Marie, as well as 2 of the 9th graders, until the very next to the last day. Sharon was never quite sure afterward how it had happened. But as she was standing before the chart on Thursday morning, coloring her squares, suddenly hit her. She gasped. Her face turned pale, then red, as the truth dawned. She had forgotten to brush her teeth up before school that morning. Oh, my. Surely I must have, Sharon thought desperately. But it was no use. Just running her tongue over her teeth proved that she had indeed forgotten. Mechanically, Sharon kept coloring spaces, just as if her day was not lying in ruin. It isn't fair, she moaned inwardly. I was so careful. I made sure to sleep 8 hours every night and ate fruit every day, washed my hands before every meal, and once I even went outside at bedtime to run around the house because I hadn't had my outdoor exercise that day. It's not fair to lose my prize just because I forgot once. By the time Sharon had colored down to the square, which said brush teeth every morning and evening, a tempting idea popped into her mind. I could just go to the bathroom now and rinse my mouth really well, she thought, and then tonight I would brush my teeth twice to make up for it. Guiltily, Sharon looked around the classroom. No one seemed to be watching, so she kept right on coloring. Her hand moved more slowly as she filled in that toothbrushing square. But she tried to convince herself that it was perfectly all right to do as she had planned. There. Today's row was all done. There were still a few minutes left before the first bell, so Sharon laid down her crayons and hurried to the restroom. At the sink, she bent over and rinsed her mouth for a long time. Surely that's as good as brushing, she thought defensively. But somehow, the day was spoiled for Sharon. The thought of what she had done kept coming back to haunt her. Each time she tried to justify to herself, thinking of how much she deserved to win that first prize, and of how she would make it right. But the battle of conscience within her took the joy out of everything. I'm not really being dishonest, she would argue, but her conscience told her otherwise. Finally, that long school day came to an end, and Sharon could leave the classroom. Surely when she could no longer see that accusing chart on the wall, she would forget. As soon as she reached home, Sharon went into the bathroom and locked the door. Then she brushed her teeth more thoroughly than she had ever done in her whole life. Now, you can quit crying, she told herself. I will be brushing my teeth twice today, so everything is all right. But Sharon was still miserable. That night, as she sat with the family for devotion, her mind kept mulling over her problem. She wasn't paying much attention to the reading from Proverbs until suddenly one verse seemed to leap out at her. Better is little with the fear of the Lord than great treasure and trouble therewith. Dad was reading loud. But lately, Sharon glanced down at her own Bible looking for the verse. There it was, Proverbs 15:16. Better is little with the fear of the Lord than great treasure and trouble therewith. Sharon knew exactly what that verse meant. The great treasure of the paint box prize, which she so desperately wanted, was bringing her trouble therewith. Wouldn't it be better to do what was right, even though she would have only a little toothbrush for a prize? I didn't do anything wrong, Sharon cried inwardly, but it was no use. You weren't honest. You colored a square when you hadn't brushed your teeth, her conscience told her. Finally, before Sharon could go to sleep that night, she made up her mind. Tomorrow, she would go to Brother Ken and tell him what she had done. She would have that one space empty on her chart and take the toothbrush for her prize. In the morning, Sharon was tempted to reconsider her decision, and the battle with herself had to be fought again. But it was much easier this time, as she remembered her misery the day before. Proverbs 15:16 was right. It wasn't worth being dishonest to get a paintball or any other treasure. Sharon had a light heart as she went up to receive her new toothbrush. The verse she had learned in this time of trouble, was ringing triumphantly in her ears. Better is little with the fear of the Lord than great treasure and trouble therewith. Now remember that. It is better to not have what you want than to have what you want and be miserable with it. Now, until next time, you have a wonderful day.